Okay, so with pleasure today we have with us Luca Spizzichino. I hope I pronounced that correctly. He is the president and head of communications of UGEI, the Union of Italian Jewish Students and Young Professionals. He's born in Rome, a freelance journalist, and as social media manager. And within UGEI, Luca has served in multiple leadership roles since 2018, including treasurer and director of ITVOG, official magazine, which he helped modernize and expand digitally, which I think is very important. And you were elected president in 2024 and focused on institutional relations, combating anti-Semitism, especially in academic environments, and fostering Jewish identity and youth participation. So thank you so much, Luca, for having you here on the show today. There's a lot of really exciting stuff I'd love to ask you.
Yeah, thank you for hosting me, basically, and can't wait to start this conversation, actually.
For sure, for sure. So number one, I want to just talk a little bit about life in Italy in general, and you could tell me if that's a little bit different in Rome. So what is Jewish life in Italy versus, say, the rest of the world? It's hard for me to tell because I've only spent, a month like here and there in Italy. You'll have to tell me.
So we have to start from the beginning. So the Jewish community of Rome is the ancient one in the diaspora. So the first Jewish people that were based in Rome, it was from the Maccabees era. So from the Maccabees. So it's even before the Roman Empire. Actually, they were allies in the moment in which there was the highest point of the Greeks, the Jewish people. So the Romans were allies because the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So right. From that period, then obviously we stayed in Rome since at that point. So there is like a joke in Rome in which we say that the real Romans are the Roman Jews, because all the rest of the people actually are immigrants, and we are in Rome based since 2000 years ago. So it's quite strange also how different is the Jewish community of Rome from any other community around the world. Also talking about our tefillot, our also minagim, we are Bnei Romi. We are not Ashkenazi, we are not Sephardi, we are Bnei Romi. So we are the people that came from Israel to Rome, and we started our own way, we can say, to live our life, our Jewish life, till now.
Mm-hmm. And is that entire stretch, which is a very significant period of time, I didn't know it went back that far. So that's very interesting. I'll have to look more details about that up. Very fascinating. But I mean, look, we know about some tremendous Jewish history that's there. So whenever I go to Rome, I like to visit the Tempio della Pace, the Temple of Peace, because we know definitely, without a doubt, because the Gemara tells us so, right, that the menorah and the tzitz and Kalim of the Beis HaMikdash were there. That definitely Jewish history goes back quite a bit. So we knew that there were Tanaim already living there, a little bit post-destruction, which means there probably was before as well, obviously. But in terms of, let's say, modern life, so what's the Jewish community like? Again, not necessarily just in Rome, although I do want to know that, but across Italy. You've been around the world a bit. So what would you say makes life in Italy distinct?
So actually, the Italian Jewish community is an Orthodox Jewish community, like it's written as a Jewish Orthodox community. In the end, every single Jew has their own way to live his life. And so we can say it is kind of traditionalist, even though looking at the Orthodox halachot. So we have obviously the mechitza, all the synagogue, all the services are in the Orthodox way. But obviously, on the other side, the Jewish community is the most of the community goes to the synagogue for the Hagim, for reunite itself in the most important Jewish holidays, and not so often to, every single Shabbat. So, but keeps kosher as much as we can, basically. Now, since the last 25 years, there was a huge increasing of butcheries, also kosher shops that in the past we hadn't. So also the community itself is starting to be more and more religious, keeps kosher, and also go to the synagogues very often, is looking also to the past. But in general, is is a very integrated community. Looking also to the rest of the society, is a very integrated community. Is inside also the commerce, is also inside the society, with also some Jewish people that are in the political sphere of the city. So is like the Jewish community is part of Rome. It's not something separated. It's something that is inside Rome. And as I said, it's very integrated with the society, even though obviously in the last 2 years, with the increasing of the anti-Semitism, the view from the other side is not good as it was years ago. Obviously, during the Holocaust Remembrance Day and all the dates that are from the memory of our past, there are some high peaks of anti-Semitism inside the city, but it's something that we are used to, because also we are used to live in the ghetto for 300 years. It wasn't like an anti-Semitic attack. It's not the worst thing that we faced through in our life, basically in the Jewish community.
Well, and that increase of infrastructure over the last 25 years, is that due to tourism, or do you think that's due to the growth of the internal Italian Jewish community?
It's mostly from, I think it's also thanks to the Libyan Jews that came from Tripoli and all the rest of the city after the 1967 war, so the Six-Day War, in which all the Jewish community from Libya was expelled by Gaddafi and went through Italy and also others, in Italy, Rome especially, and also their city, and to Israel. But a good number of Libyan Jews stayed in Rome. And this new community that went in Rome make also the city, the Jewish community, more observant, is also pushed on living the Jewish life as much as we do. So from also, because basically we have to think about how was the Jewish community after the Second World War. The Jewish community was from the best point that he has reached from when we were based in Rome. So we passed through the persecution from the Catholics after the killing of Jesus, and then we passed through the Pope. And then the Pope decided to put us in the ghetto. And then we reached the integration from the Savoy family, from the royal family of Italy. They said the Jews are part of the Italians, they are the Italian people. And so we reached the highest point of integration between the society. And then came the fascist era. And from the fascist era, there were persecutions, and also the deportation on the 16th of October 1943, which more than 1,023 people were deported from Rome to Auschwitz-Birkenau, and only 16 were basically went back from the camp. So after the war, the Jewish community was destroyed, was demolished by the Jewish hate that he has to pass through during the Shoah. And so I think one of the most important spiritual leader, and I would say also political leader, that we had in the last century, Rav Yonatan Dorfman, wanted to rebuild the community from zero, basically. He had to rebuild the community from zero and
right after the war? Like that was his
right after the war? It was Rav Pratos, that was the chief rabbi when also Israel was established, and then he left the role, and the role was gave to Rav Yonatan. So it was in the early 50s, more or less. Right. And from the early 50s till the 2000, more or less, he was the chief rabbi of Rome, was the most respected person that was in the Jewish community. The presidents of Italy, or every politician wanted to talk with him because he was a partisan during the war. So he was also part of the resistance during the war. And so he was a so much respected figure, not only spiritually, because obviously he is the chief rabbi, but also because he was part of the resistance during the Second World War. So also politically, He has a huge figure. And he understood that he has to rebuild from zero that community. So obviously in the 60s, the 70s and 80s, he has to close some eyes, from some points, from also, I would say, from religiously point of view. But obviously, basically the community was reconstructed, there was also the confirmation of our values, of our achot. So from the 2000s, since now, there were an increasing of kosher restaurants, kosher shops, supermarkets. Also, from like a lot of mikvahs were built, from like having only like one or two in two places. Now there are basically five mikvahs in around Rome. So it's a huge increasing, more than 15 synagogues during the high holidays. We reach also 18, 19, because there are also the huge families they say, okay, let's go all together. Basically, we are like 20 people. We have a minyan, so let's have our own synagogue in somewhere. So it happens also like that. And also, I think that the Jewish community has a moment which has to be reconstructed after the war. And when the Libyan Jews came, there was the moment in which also we have to change from like also looking to the traditions. It's not only being Jews, only coming about on Rosh Hashanah and Kippur in the main synagogue, but living your Jewish life, also respecting the Achot, the Minhagim, and also especially the Minhagim that are something that is peculiar, looking also to the rest of the Sephardim, of Ashkenazim. We have our own rules. Like, for example, like the most funny things is about the hitting the lamb during Pesach. In the rest of the Jewish world, no one eats the lamb.
Oh, I don't know what you're talking about. What do you?
Yeah, so it was written also in Talmud that it was that there was a discussion, a machloket, talking about the Roman Jews can eat the lamb or not. There was this figure as a rabbi, a rich person that is also very, very influential. We don't know how influential and in which way he wanted to be influential. He said, in Rome, we eat the lamb. And so the Sanhedrin, all the Chachamim decided, okay, you can eat the lamb. So basically from the Talmud era till now, we still eat the lamb. Not obviously from the Seder plates, but cooked.
Right.
But in general, so we have some peculiarities also from the rest of the Jewish world. We are the Bnei Romi. Looking to, I don't know, like the TV series from Disney Channel, like the Hannah Montana, the best of the both worlds. It's more or less the same. Like there are some stuff that are coming from the Sephardi, some stuff that is coming from the Ashkenazim, and if you look at it, it's kind of mix. There's some stuff that we can.
For those watching, so I was just there last month. And the davening is super confusing. Not in a bad way. It's just unfamiliar, like you're saying, because like it has like Sephardi Ashkenazi and then also a totally separate feel to it. It really does. So it's a very unique experience. I'd encourage anyone who goes to Italy to definitely experience a pure Italian, especially a pure Roman tefillah, because it really is something different.
Yeah, because
is that community though? Is that expanding? Meaning is the Jewish community able to build? I understand that there was a big influx, but are religious people getting married and having kids and expanding and staying, or so they're not moving away.
So from this point of view, we have to recognize that the Jewish community is part of Italy. So as we know that there is like a sort of demographic winter in Italy, we have to obviously looking to our community and looking that there is a small demographic winter also inside the community. Even though in the last few years we are looking to a lot of marriages, a lot of weddings, also from people that are quite young between one to another, because we are used in the past. We were used to like getting married like in the early 30s or like 31, 32, because we wanted to be completely independent from our family, not being like, okay, I want to build my own family in order to build my own family, I have to be independent. Not that I can't ask for anything, any single thing. My mom and say, "Mom, I need help, or I need to cook. I don't stuff." No, you need to cook for yourself. If you wanted to start a family, it's your turn to do so. Obviously, your family is always on your back and helping you when you need, not every single day. So, but in the past, also people starting also work with the family, also some wealthy families that they want to start very early to build a family. There is a sort of growing of in term of weddings, in term of numbers of children like born. I don't know exactly the numbers. It is a good increasing, but on the other way, there's a lot of our relatives that are dying due to the age. So it's like we are in balance basically. But in general,
if you're in balance, so you don't think in terms of Jewish population, is the Jewish religious population expanding, staying the same, or contracting? Do you think?
I think that is depends on the community, I would say, because from the biggest community, so Rome and Milan is kind of growing, but on the other way, we don't know if they are growing at all because you know how many Jews are living in Rome through the taxes that they pay to the community.
Right.
And some people from some political views that are completely different from the actual leadership, people decided not to pay the taxes, and so they are not inscribed in the community. But they are basically also halakhically Jew. So there are some people that, for political reasons, are moving to the Reform community because they are looking not good to they don't see good the actual leadership, also past leaderships, and so they are called the far Jews, from the people that are too far from the community. And our job is to get back from what they are now to living actually the community life again, without moving, without looking at the political views of the actual leaderships or the leaderships that are ruling in the community. You have to live your Jewish life because you know that is if you want to live your Jewish life, you need to stay in the community somehow. And so I would say this. But on the other hand, if the biggest community are increasing, also thanks to people that are moving from the small communities to the big communities, the small communities are slowly dying. They are getting old and old. There are a few examples in which there are no minyanim, and it happened. For example, the last event that was held by the future vice president of UJ from our union, he organized this new project. This is called Nosayor, so who brings the light, and who brings the light especially to the small communities in which there is no Jewish life in the synagogue, in which it's very difficult to reach the number of a minyan. Also, even counting all the communities around that small communities, because there are small communities and one near to each other, and even though those one are very close to one another, it's also still difficult to reach a minyan. It happened that during this event, it was 3 Shabbatot ago, he had the possibility to have minyan, and also there was a bar mitzvah from a young guy of 20 years old that never put the tefillin. And so basically it happened also in this place to have also a bar mitzvah since like years ago, because the average of the age from some communities is over 60, over 70. So it's slowly dying. What make those communities still alive is the Israeli students that are coming from Israel to study in our university, the Italian universities. For example, is a huge example from Ancona, that is in the middle of Italy, in which the community is quite small. It's like 20, 30 people, and they're coming from Israel around 25 Israeli students.
So they
most of them,
community.
They literally kind of built the community. So even though some of them also are not only Jews, there are also 5 Jews that came from Israel to study in Israel, to study in Italy. And so it was quite funny that there is an increasing somehow in some small communities, because the the cost of the life in those cities that are smaller is cheaper than Rome or Milan or even Florence in Turin. So they are moving to those places, but in general,
how about Italian blood? Is Jewish Italian blood getting bigger or not? That's my question.
I would say no. I think it can stay in balance, but it's not growing. I would say.
Why do you think that is? Why is it not growing?
Because I think in general, because the cost of the life in Italy, it doesn't help you in order to build a family very early, and so also having more children is not so easy. It's a sacrifice. So when you are ready to build a family, you build a family. If you think that you are still not ready to do so, you can have a partner for years, but you still not decide to getting married because the wedding, it costs money. Also, maybe living together is maybe even easier because it's especially the wedding and also having a baby that are the most important stuff that you have to pay in that moment. Because if you want to live together with someone, you can, because you split the split the cost, so you don't care. But on the other side, when you have to organize a wedding, it costs money. If you have to build a new family, the new baby, the childborn, it costs money, and so you can't live properly with not a sum of money and having also a baby. When you're ready, you do you grow, you make family grow. In some cases, it's happening. In other cases, we wait. I know of friends that they stay together for like even 10 years, and they get married like 1 year ago, 2 years ago. Oh, wow. So wow. It was a long relationship that finished when they said, okay, we are ready. We can start to have our own home. We can start to having children, and now we can live and start a family. Because before we can obviously say, yeah, I will build a new family, but we'll have my parents.
Right.
It has no sense.
Right. Well, hold on. So let's talk about that, or at least expand that a little more. Okay. So in terms of blood level, maybe we're staying around the same amount. But then you talked before about integration. So I want to ask you a little bit about integration. So when you say integration, that means like in all aspects of work, people feel very very comfortable in the workplace doing certain sorts of jobs.
So I would say that in general, yes, but there is also the other side of the medal, in which we can find work wherever we want. But there are some workplaces in which living your Jewish life is not that easy. For example, there is a law between the state and the Jewish community in which we say which are the dates in which we have not to work, because it's the high holidays. There is Lemoadim, also Shabbatot. But when you go at the end of the day, you have to go to work in a not Jewish workplace. It's not so easy to having those dates for you. So sometimes you have to scale up from your own holidays that you have for law. You have to take away 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, because we want to live your Jewish life properly, like keeping moeds, and it's not that easy. So depends also from employer to employer if they are so open-minded or not. It happened that there were times in which we have to ask to the chief rabbi to help the employee, to ask him for Yom Kippur, because he has to work. He was to work for Yom Kippur during Yom Kippur.
They'll threaten to fire you if you don't come in for Yom Kippur, and then you have to call the chief rabbi. It can get that annoying.
No, it was the worst moment, because basically they close an eye and say, okay, just took away from your own holidays. You just took away 1 day. It's not a tragedy. You say yes, but you are not that happy. But you do the same, because obviously you want to give you need to live. You need money. So if you want to, you have to say, okay, I will take away from my own days 1 day for keeping moed, and that's it. But in general, on the other side, if you're living obviously in some Jewish workplaces, as I do, for example, they don't ask me if I want to work or not during the high holidays. They took for granted that I won't work. So depends also from employer to employer if they are open-minded or closed-minded. It depends, but in general, we do whatever we want. So if you want to do pizza, we can go to make pizza somewhere. It's not a problem. We make our own pizza shop for us, as we do also. So there's some pizza also in the Jewish quarter that is kosher. It's very good.
It is very good. It is very good.
Yeah.
It is very good.
So
okay. Well, how about in the workplace, aside from integration in terms of being able to keep a job, how about anti-Semitism in the professional workplace?
I think is not so problematic as the living outside, like walking through the street with a kippah on your head or wearing the Magen David. From this point of view, it's not that easy. It depends on which neighborhood you are staying or you are walking through. Obviously, if you are working near a station, I can say cover yourself, put a baseball cap, because it's not so sure for you walking through watching that you are Jew. In the workplaces, is depending on the ignorance of your colleagues, basically, because it happened that few people will start talking about the Israelo-Palestinian conflict, and they start thinking, Israel is doing a genocide, la 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 la. But after that, there's no real anti-Semitism from this point of view inside the workplaces. Is more on the street, and especially in the universities, in the schools.
Really?
Those are the most problematic places.
Let's talk about the university for a second. So so for the workplace, we're limited to basically verbal anti-Semitism. Okay, so let's talk about the university. So are people getting? If you go in with a kippah, you'll get beat up. Like what? To what degree?
I think is that not so. We are used to not to wear the kippah, showing our kippah on some places, especially in public places when you are alone. And so it's the same for the university. There are some ignorant people that say, like, they look at kippah and say, you are Israeli. No, I'm an Italian Jew.
Right.
No. So I don't know even how is made a rifle. See, but it happened that they recognize you as Zionist only because you are wearing a kippah or you are wearing a Magen David. So from this point of view, it's quite problematic because the Italian people is still relevantly ignorant about what is happening in the Middle East, what happened also to the Jews during the Ghetto era and also during the Shoah. They know some stuff, but not everything. And so also they didn't have that process, for example, that the Germans did after the Second World War, in which they recognized what they did wrongly, and then they decided to start a new life.
Wait,
looking
what do you mean by that?
For example, that the Italians didn't count of their past or what they did during the fascist era and etc. So they said, there was the fascist era, but didn't say no, we made bad stuff during that period. Instead, the Germans did. They recognized their own faults after the Second World War, and they're still mourning for what they did.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Instead, the Italian Jews, the Italian people, still no. They literally became anti-fascist in the moment the fascist regime fell down. I don't know who said it, but he said, this person was a politician, an Italian politician, said, in Italy there were 60 million Italians that were fascist during the fascist regime, and there were also 60 million people that were anti-fascist. But in Italy, we are 60 million and not 120. So there is a problem. There was a sort of change from a way to another, from or being anti-Semitic or being indifferent about what was happening to the Jews during the Shoah, and then they move on. The fascist regime finished, and then they move on. They didn't count about their past, but they move on. And it is a problem, because if you don't recognize your errors and also your fault during the past, you are condemned
You're
to
going to repeat it.
you're going to repeat it, and it's happening in the same way, because there is obviously there is a connection between Israel and the Jewish people, but this connection doesn't mean that we are totally agree with every single government that Israel has, or in general we are not connected with the government or with the Israeli government at all. We are not connected. We have our bond with Israel that is something deeper than looking to the state of Israel. It's something that came from the Haggadah even. When we finish the Haggadah, we say Ashana Babi Yerushalayim, and we said that from 1,000 years ago, not from when the Zionism was established. So from this point of view, I would say that honestly, there is a lot of ignorance. There is a lot of calculation of who are the Jews. They don't know who are the Jews, and when they say a person that is defending Israel because of we recognize that Israel has the right of existing. They say, you're a Zionist. But when you ask to them, but you believe that that the Jewish people has the right of autodetermination? They say, yeah, basically, yeah. So you are a Zionist, and there is like oh no, you destroyed their own their own castle made of cards, in which they say, oh no, and now. But yeah, I think, and from this point of view,
is that anti-Semitism? Here are two questions. Is that anti-Semitism getting worse? Like, are things getting worse as time goes on? That's question one. And question two, how do you respond to that? Like, what's the way to combat that anti-Semitism, at least in Italy?
I think that is increasing. The numbers says that, in which in the last 9 months we faced 766 cases of anti-Semitism, especially in the online world, but there was a huge increasing of also real life incidents, also aggressions, physical aggressions. At least there were, during the last 9 months, there were 11 cases of aggression to Jews. That is numbers that we never reached in years, even decades. So it's something that the anti-Semitism is a problem that we need to face, but not alone. As I said, every single moment in which I go to the institution or I talk in a public, I say that anti-Semitism is not a Jewish problem. It's a problem of the entire society, because it is the first sign that the democracy is getting worse. That is something that is broken in the mechanism of the society, of the democracy. And so we have to be the rising of anti-Semitism is a warning of what would happen to the rest of the society. The Jews are only the start. When the Jews are attacked, it means that something is broken inside our society, inside our society. The cohesion between the communities, because obviously the Italian community is not made only by Italians. It's made also by the Catholics, from the Muslims, the Buddhists, the Hinduists, and the Jews. If we are not talking each other, if there is a lot of frictions between the one community to another, also the atheists, we can't also them. If we are not talking to each other, we don't recognize that there is a problem inside the society, it will get worse. And now we are seeing that we are getting worse. From this point of view, as Jay,
so how do you fix that?
I think it matters of time. Is a problem that we are facing since centuries, and we didn't fix it. We try to control it as much as we can, also with the help of the institutions. In the past, we hadn't this possibility of having the help of the institution, the police, on try to block the raising of anti-Semitism. Now we are lucky that we have.
But 1 second. But that's like defense. But Luca, that's defense. That's defense. Meaning that's if someone wants to attack a Jewish community, so you have guards to protect against them. But what about look, if it's a dogma, if it's a dogmatic issue, which is what it is in Italian society, it sounds like it's a form of racism, right? So so and I would imagine in order to combat that, you'd need something social, you need something public, you'd need something changed in the education system, you need something changed in the political system. Are there any institutions or presentations, or like, is there anything like, a little bit more organized, that's more abstract, that's trying to fix this issue?
Yeah, so together with Palazzo Chigi, that is made like the office of the coordinator countering anti-Semitism, we renew the strategy combating anti-Semitism. It is not only defensive; it's something more. It's more proactive. What it means that most of the fields that are part of the strategy is the education. That is multi-level. It means starting like PhDs, researches inside the university, looking how anti-Semitism is changed through the years. So from the Catholic and the anti-Judaism arriving to the anti-Zionism. That is the same way. It's the same thing. If you look also how they push on some propaganda, nothing's changed. And also education, like starting to organize events of interfaith dialogue, intercultural dialogue. And from this point of view, for example, as UJ, as the Italian Union of Jewish Students and Young Professionals, we establish a good connection with the Roma community. And the Roma community, because they face the same hate that we faced also. So as the anti-Semitism exists, there is also the anti-Ziganism exists. So it's the hate against the Roma people. And so we try to we made this project together in which we try to help the students, because it was made in the universities, to recognize what is anti-Semitism and how it changed, what is the anti-Ziganism and how it changed, but not at all. The most difficult to recognize is the anti-Semitism, because it's changing in a political spectrum, and when it comes to a political spectrum, it will be more difficult to recognize. And that's our job, to make people recognize that that as a virus, anti-Semitism is changing itself. When anti-Semitism understands that some type of hate is not working at all, you change it. And it is changing to a political sphere, and so it's very ambiguous to attack, because sometimes it's a legitimate critic of the government of Israel, but very often it arrives to critic Israel itself, the Jewish people, the Israeli people.
One of the things that you said, I think, does make a lot of sense, though, like targeting the next generation, so young people, when they're the most open and the most impressionable. So in universities, being able to offer lectures maybe funded by the government or not funded by the government, or even classes talking about oppression in the Jewish world. I think that these are great ideas for the way like the Italian Jewish community could teach, their not Jewish counterparts exactly what it means to be a Jew and why anti-Semitism is such a problem. And that interfaith dialogue idea is also, I think, a fantastic idea. Do you think that are there these sort of ideas and programs in place?
So there is, at the moment, we have to recognize that the universities have a problem of censorship, of a problem in which there is no dialogue at all inside the universities. If you want to organize a Jewish event, or you want to organize a Jewish lecture, also interfaith dialogue event, if there are Jews inside, a recognizable Jews inside, or the president of the union or the vice president of the Italian union, you need police, you need the security. You can't do it alone. And it's a huge problem. It's a freedom of expression that is lacking. And it's a huge problem that we are facing now, and we advocate for it. For the freedom of expression, we advocate since the 8th of October. When you read my bio, and I was also boots on the ground in the universities, it means the reality. We try to organize an event. So together with Non-Jewish Student Association, in 1 year and a half ago, we wrote down a manifesto for the right of study inside universities. It was a manifesto, pamphlet, in which we wrote that we are against the occupation, we are against vandalism, we are for the freedom of expression, and we are against anti-Semitism. We try to promote in every single universities, talking with the students association directly, it was possible. If we wanted to promote inside universities, it was a problem because there were like some fringe fractions of the left side of the Students' Association that didn't want us to talk about it because it was their own way to express their ideas through violence, and we were against them. It happened that we made at least 3 events in two different universities. The first one, it was made in Milan, which was like the very beginning of how also this manifesto was born, in which we had the possibility to take the event, but together with like 30 policemen in front of the entrance. 30 policemen, not with civil clothes, with the uniform. So it's quite different, the situation. And the second and the third time, we tried to do it in Turin. Turin now, I define itself as a black hole of the Israeli hate and the Jewish hate, because there is no control of the universities, of what is happening inside universities. We tried to do twice the same event at the same university in the same place. The first time, we had to change the title because saying that we were against the anti-Semitism, we were against the occupation, the vandalism was too divisive. And so we had to change the title. That is crazy, exactly. And we had to change the title. But we changed the title too late, according also to the bureaucracy of the university. So that from having the permission at the very beginning, we discovered that we had no permission the same day, which we, from different cities, from Florence, Rome, and also Milan, we were moving to Turin. And during the trip with the train, we discovered that we had no permission. And when we arrived to the universities, we never entered to the room in order to do the stuff. We made also we made only an information point for the journalists expressing our concerns about the freedom of expression. And when we made the point of information for the journalists, there was a demonstration of the so-called pro-Palestinian students that wanted to go against us, in front of us. There were around 300 people, again, against like 12, 15 people maximum. But thank God, in that moment, we were outside, so the police put like a border between them and us. But when everything was finished, they would say, okay, thank you to the journalists. And I went inside the university alone without wearing a kippah alone. I saw a poster in which was written, Zionists outside from the universities. We don't want the Zionists in the universities. It was like, at the face of the freedom of expression, of being united, not divisive, they ask us to not to be here. And this is not divisive. And then I saw also a poster of the counter demonstration against our event that didn't have, at the end of the day, didn't do. And they were using that red triangles of Hamas. You know, the targets that they put on the Israeli soldiers in the propaganda video. Okay, those triangles was put on our logos, and it was like, this is again freedom of expression, or is terrorist apology? Yeah. So you want to use the same propaganda of a terrorist organization, and they've said nothing. And so after 2 months, we say,
but anti-Semitism is too much, though. Anti-Semitism is too much, though.
But it didn't end, because we tried again to do in the same place the event. We had the permission, but when we went inside the room, there were 300 people occupying our room and tried to boycott our event. And in order to boycott our event, they started to also beat us. There was literally not also verbal aggression, but also physical aggression. There is a picture of me in which I was wearing the pins of the hostages, and also the one from the US against the anti-Semitism, the blue square of the Stand Up Against Hate. And I was wearing on my jacket. There was this girl that is the head of a far left / anarchist movement in Turin that removed from my jacket with the force, and he was literally put out on a screen from the journalist. This journalist, I don't know who is, he put on his video, he recorded every single act of violence of this person against us. So we were physically we were beaten. There was physical aggression and verbal aggression. I don't want to say.
Where was the police?
was when there was the physical aggression of like from me putting the jacket, remove the pins from the jacket. The police arrived and divided us from like five meters between her and me, because actually they were afraid of me responding to her, because if I just receive the act, I can then answer without having any other repercussion. If I have a response, it will be problem for me, not for her. So from a point of force in the like from the law, I was in a point of being again, if like from having my rights on finishing having no rights because you responded with violence. So they put me far away from her. Obviously, I was quite hungry. I think I was more for the rest of like 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I was quite nervous about what happened, because I was really like Zen modality. I wasn't responding to any single verbal aggression and also any single physical aggression. And people still look at how did you made possible to not answer to her in any way. And I still don't know how. Maybe I understood that the situation was, for me, it was good, even though I was a victim in that moment. But then I knew that I was able to use it in order to promote what I was promoting till the moment with a manifesto. I said, we are against the violence, and you made possible the violence. And I am the witness of that violence. So from being a victim, I was using that card, it's in my own way, because honestly, okay, I'm a victim. Yes, I was a victim. You made possible the censorship, and you made possible the physical aggression to another person, to another Italian. Is not normal. But in the end of the day, what happened is that they didn't have no answer no repercussions from the universities. Only after 1 year, place.
But it's not a fail.
No, actually, for me it was a victory, because for me it was a win-win.
The reason you're going to tell me why, but I'm just saying, like this is like, for lack of Charlie Kirk, in America.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he is just was an amazing guy. What I said is what was, he was violently murdered, unfortunately, but he did amazing stuff. And one of the things that he did is he just really didn't care. He just went and he spoke what he thought the truth was in face of, the opposite side really being very aggressive. I think it's that voice. I think Italy having its own Charlie Kirk moment, in terms of the
thank God, without being murdered.
Yes, no, without violence. Yeah, no. Listen. But he has such his legacy is past his assassination. People get assassinated and it's horrible. I don't think people are going to remember Charlie Kirk because of the fact that he got assassinated. It's amazing. When a person gets assassinated, you remember them for being assassinated. I feel like the first thought that people have when they think about Charlie Kirk, at least Americans definitely, is they think about all the amazing, information that he put out there and the really open and fair debates that he had. If you've seen any of the debates that he's had with people, people really try to make him upset and angry and insult him. He has very open conversations, and I think that's one of the reasons why he had such amazing effect, right? So it sounds like Italy could really use a little bit of that, especially with the younger people. You know what I mean? That sort of that exposure, doing these sort of events, and just sitting down and talking to people that are young. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, from this point of view, I was saying to you is basically it was a win-win situation. If it was censorship against me, I was winning, because what I wrote on a manifesto, it was the truth. On the other way, if I had the possibility to talk in that event, it was a win, because basically the situation is changing inside university. So maybe the manifesto put an importance to put a point in the public discourse on that matter and on that situation. And we made it possible. Obviously, it was, in the end of the day, it ended with the censorship, but actually it was a kind of turning point of the situation inside universities, because after those facts in Turin, it happened that there was a physical aggression to a non-Jewish professor that was against the boycotts of the Israeli universities in Pisa. He was beaten by those students, so-called pro-Palestinian students, only because he was called Zionist. And then later, 2 months ago, it happened that a former member of the parliament that is a Jewish person that is called Emanuele Fiano. He is the son of an Holocaust survivor. So he has the countering anti-Semitism is in his blood. So he wanted to talk about Israel in the universities, but not talking about Israel and being also close to the government. No, he was very critical to the Israeli government, to the Netanyahu government. And even though he was critical to that government, he was labeled as a Zionist. And for those groups that basically are very coordinated around Italy, he was labeled as a person that has no right to talk in the public sphere. And so they boycott the event, shouting inside the room, and also using some gestures that are coming from the Italian 70s. This is like the P-38 gesture. This is like a pistol. And this gesture in Italy during the 70s, it meant the attack from the leftist terrorist organization, Brigate Rosse, the Red Brigades, to assassinate people that are not good for those brigades. So for those terrorists. So those gestures had consequences in the past, and they are using now. And so this situation that we are facing now in Italy is a mix between two decades: the 70s with the internal terrorism that was rising, and also the 80s, especially in the 82 during the Lebanon war, in which there was a huge raising of anti-Semitism in the Jewish world, especially in Italy. And the climate of the 82 ended with the assassination of a child in the synagogue. In the 9th of October 1982, there was a terrorist attack made by the Palestinian terrorist groups, and with a child of 2 years old that died during that terrorist attack. And the same climate we faced in the 82 is more or less the same or even worse, together with the internal friction of the 70s. So you can say that now we are facing in Italy a moment which is very unstable, that could end. And we don't know how it could end, because thank God there is the police and there is the institution that are with us, and they are understood that there is a huge problem, that the anti-Semitism is a security issue, it's a national security problem. So it's like facing terrorism from them. So we are at the same level. So from this way, thank God there is a good perception from the institution of the problem that we are facing. It's not the same for the society. Why? If it's not against us, it's indifferent, like in the 40s. So we are living in times that is a mix of times, but not the good times, worst times that we faced in the last century. So it's a quite tough situation, but with the truth that we are in Israel now is still ongoing with Gaza, with Hamas, the situation is, I would say, under control, more stable. There are some anti-Semitic incidents, but not often than the past months. It happens very sporadically, but not so often. Maybe at least, like I would say, once a month. That is enough, but it's not like the past months in which we had major incidents. They do not like terrorists, like the Bondi Beach, something like aggression or very bad graffitis or something like that, but were very, very common in the past months. Now it's coming very sporadic. So we know that it's part of a flow that is still ongoing underground, because it's
I'm happy.
anti-Semitism.
I'm happy that it's stemming a little bit. At least.
Yeah, I think it's under control.
I want to get one more question. If that's all right? There's
one
question I got to ask you. Okay, so how about chinuch in Italy? Do you have Talmud Torahs? Do you have any yeshivot? Is there any yeshivas or smichas that are given, kolalim? What do you have?
So we have kolalim, especially Roman. So I think there is two major poles in Italy for studying Torah: Rome and Milan. Rome is the center in which basically all the rabbanim or the maskilim are growing, because there is like this school, Jewish school. It's a kind of a yeshiva, kind of, in which if you want to go, if you want to be a rabbi or a mashgiach or whatever you want, you have to study in that school, a kind of university, I would say. That is called Collegio Rabbinico. It's like, but is in the end of the day is a kind of yeshiva. It's not like the yeshivot that we know in Israel or even the US. That is 100% of the time studying. Is you go there when you have the free time, or especially during the weekend, you go to, especially I don't know, in during Sunday, you go to this place in order to study, in order to take in the end of the in the end of the course, you take the exam, and yeah, when you finish the exam, you have the title of rabbi or maskil. Days for us is or chacham or maskil. At the moment, we have a lot of maskilim, and there are people that are thinking about coming chachamim, so rabbanim. So, but in general, there is also, I think, at least 2 or 3 kolelim inside, also a beta midrash in Rome. Basically, the kollel and the beta midrash is in the same place. So they have only different days of which they are open for them or to the others. So that is in a synagogue called Bet Michael. Also, Michael, it was the Jewish name of the child that was murdered in the 1982. And so they take in memory of him, they built in memory of him a synagogue. I think it's one of the, I would say, part of chinuch inside the community. In that place, we have like once a week or once every 2 weeks, an event or Torah lesson held by a maskil of the same age of me, so of 31. It does those Torah lessons for all the people to get, that is completely free, and also the food is completely free. But in general, there are also more moments during the week, like twice a week or 3 times a week, in which the kollel in that place is open, and the midrash for the rest of the week. So one point for, I don't know, Monday, Wednesday, and Sunday it's for the men, and Tuesday and I don't know, Tuesday, Thursday, and is for the women. Obviously, it depends on the number of the people that are coming. Basically, usually is during after work. Is an after work moment for most of the people, and the same is in Milan. But in Milan is also is more religious, I would say, kind of, if you compare it to Rome.
From Rome or Milan or anywhere else in Italy, do any of them ever study in Israel? After high school?
Yes, yeah, I think that especially from Milan, a lot of young Jewish students are moving to Israel in order to study, if not in the Technion or in the Reichman University or Tel Aviv University, they are going to yeshivot.
But some of them go to yeshivas. Okay, beautiful.
Yeah. Beautiful. Menja, because also in Milan is a really strong Lubavitch community, Chabad community, and also the Persians and the Lebanese community is more religious than the Roman Italian community in general. So they are for them it's even easier to go to study in the yeshivot. In general, also some people from the collegium in Rome are going to study for 2 weeks, 1 month in Israel, in the yeshivot, especially I think in the yeshivat HaKotel. My best friend, he went like 6 months studying, or even a year, I don't remember. I think a year. He studied for a year in yeshivat HaKotel. Then he went back, and basically he went back having like half of the exams already did in Israel, because it was faster. He was completely 100% focused on studying. So yeah, it was faster for him to also finish the rest of exams. So he has a mindset that was put inside the yeshiva, and he brought in Italy. And so for him was also even faster to do the rest of exam. So, and it was the same also for the other guy that now does lesson every Tuesday. This guy went to Israel for 2 years. 1 year was for Yeshivat HaKotel, so literally inside the yeshiva, And then the second year was for volunteering the IDF, because Yeshivat HaKollel is very close to having like your way, your path inside the Yeshivat HaKollel is like study, study, study. You have time for the tzava, and then you go back to study and finish your studies and become a rabbi. So it's also, it's very, I think also from my point of view, it's something that is also cool. It's also good because you became integrated part of the society, and not something that is external. You don't recognize the rest of the society as your society. Then the other way, you say, my life is focused on studying Torah. But on the other way, also saving the life of the Jewish people is Torah somehow. And so you go to serve for the IDF, and then you finish your year, you were back. You finish to study and take your title. So I think it's something that is useful also because it's a good connection that we have
I hear the
look at too.
Yeah. Right. Luca, unfortunately, we've run out of time. I want to thank you so much for joining us on the show. You really shared so much beautiful experiences with us. I certainly learned a lot. I'm sure our viewers did as well. I just wanted to say, keep on trucking. I think that idea of, again, especially in terms of combating anti-Semitism, of information out there to the masses, I think, I know, I mean, you personally got attacked. Okay, so I know it's very easy for me to say because I'm sitting over here, but keep on going. You're doing amazing work. You're doing God's work. HaKadosh Baruch Hu should bless you. Keep on going. You know,
Thank you.
I think you're really doing important stuff over there. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for asking me again, and hope to see you soon.
Sounds good. Take care.
Thank you.